Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Datu Chronicles. Today's topic is: did I get kicked out of the IMF? Now, before we get into it today, yes, I live in Buffalo. Yes, we had a whole bunch of snow. No, the Buffalo fans are not soft like some people were trying to say. Does 11 miles make a difference in the weather here? Hell yeah. So, Buffalo Bills won tonight, yes, against Pittsburgh Steelers. They play the Kansas City Chiefs next week. We'll see how things go from there. Now, but there were some out-of-town fans. What happened is they took the Bills game and they said, well, it's not safe for the fans who are traveling. We're going to make the game go on Monday night. And then some people who were staying downtown, they couldn't figure out how 11 miles makes a difference. And in Buffalo, you drive 5 miles. Downtown Buffalo, they had a few inches. My house, we had 3 feet. So I'm fine. I watched the game from the house. I went to the school to check things out. All is good. And the secret, I've got a 100-foot driveway. The secret is go out every hour or so and shovel your driveway or have a good snowblower and just keep going and going and going. All right, but listen, today's topic is: what goes on? Did I get kicked out of the IMF? So the answer is no, I did not. And I have some information. And now people are asking me, well, before I start this off, why do I even care? It happened over 20 years ago. Because today, well, not today, but in this past year, there's been people who've been mentioning how I got kicked out of the IMF, and that was never the case. And unfortunately, the person who was bringing it up, he himself got kicked out. I actually have the letter that banned him from using the art and the name of the art. And he was one of my black belts was teaching at an event with him. And afterwards, they tried to say, well, Tim got kicked out. They go, stop. Listen, I get along with you because we're martial arts. But, at the end of the day, I was there. I didn't see you. Remy didn't kick Tim whatsoever. And, put a kibosh on it right there. But the thing here is it's being said. So I want to talk about what happened. Because if one person's getting it wrong, the problem is these days when something happens, a lot of people just decide that they are going to assume that the person is what they're saying is right and not get the right information. So, and I'm gonna give you some sources. So right off the bat, you can find out. I sent a letter of resignation, which can be found on archive.org. That is a website that archives websites, and you can find a bunch of things like the announcement of me being the highest ranked black belt in the system, for at least in the States, and stuff of that nature. So when I say these things, I just don't make these things up. A lot of people thought these types of things. I'm like, no, I'm not making stuff up. Yeah, how you doing, Terrell? My good friend. I don't make these things up because everything can be verifiable. Or more importantly, I'm going to make sure everything I say is verifiable. I really don't care what anyone's going to tell someone behind closed doors. What was important to me is what the professor would say in front of the group where he could be held accountable. Lots of people said, oh, yeah, professor told me this and professor told me that. But where did he tell you? Was anyone around? Were there any witnesses? How you doing, sir? And definitely let's try to hook up when I'm in the Philippines in February, brother. And is this your wife and your daughter? I always get this image and I'm wondering, or do you identify and that's you with long hair? I don't know. But is that your wife and daughter by any chance? Okay. So what I want to talk about, there's certain things I'm going to leave out. The next episode, we're going to do this. What I'm going to cover is what happened in Germany when Professor got diagnosed. And that actually has bearing on today's conversation. But I'm not going to discuss that. Not today. And of course, someone's going to call me. Hold on. Hey, I'm doing a podcast right now. Hey, good. I'm doing a podcast right now.
Oh, you are? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Call when you're done.
Yeah. Okay, brother. All right. Bye. My adopted family. Next week, I'm going to be in Avon, Connecticut, unless he's telling me that there's a weather front coming. That was Dominic Violante. So he's hosting me out in Avon, Connecticut. So provided there's not a weather issue like we just had in Buffalo, I'll be there. So if you want to hook up, let me know. Should be a fun seminar. So I'm going to go over some details here. And then you guys be the judge. So first of all, I was the highest ranked black belt at the time. I want to give you what was going on. So I was the senior black belt in the art. We didn't know about the Philippines. Professor didn't talk to us about the Philippines. For all intents, they didn't exist to us because we didn't know. The only Filipino we knew of was Roland Dantes. That was still a resident over there. We knew about Shashir Nakalo, but we didn't know about Rodel de Guc, Cristino Vasquez, Jerry Dela Cruz, or any of the other guys over there. Because, like I said, we had Professor here. We had him here for 25 some odd years, and we got to see all that evolution. So highest ranked person would be the senior ranked person, Now, we are going to talk about the Masters of Tappy Tappy on the next show, in my opinion. But to just touch base on this, those who weren't already fifth degree were promoted to fifth so they could become masters, which wasn't the case at the time. So they changed fifth degree from whatever it was, which is another topic, to master, which means I would have had the same title because of master, because I was a sixth degree. I would have had anything that was a rank driven title, which there really wasn't any rank driven titles in the system. I was the highest ranked black belt as per what Professor said. I tested at the last Michigan summer camp, which was in 2000. And when I say that, let me rephrase that. When I talk about the first, or whatever, I'm talking about during Remy's era. I don't care what any of us did afterwards. That's unimportant to me. I mean, it's important to all of us because it's carrying the art forward. But when we're talking about with Professor and all this other stuff, it was the last camp the Professor was teaching at, and that was the 2000 Michigan State Summer Camp. Remy promoted me to Datu the year before. I didn't accept it. And then after I tested for my sixth degree, he also made a point of telling me, you see, now you're a Datu in my eyes, now you're Datu in their eyes, and introduced me at the Tucker, Georgia camp as Datu Tim Hartman. So anyone trying to say that the tumor affected the judgment, because I do say the tumor affects the judgment of some of the stuff he did. And we'll talk about that next episode. He decided a year prior that I was already Datu. For those, when we talked about this before, I don't like receiving anything from him or anyone for that matter without proving myself on the floor. We all are evaluated all the time. I watch my students all the time and I say, yep, you're ready, you're ready, you're ready. But I put them through that. I want them to test, physically demonstrate their techniques in a pressure cooker environment, that testing formal environment, because it just doesn't feel like, hey, I handed you this and that's it. And, I mean, a lot of the guys, they don't, I've had guys train with me for years. If I just would say, here's your black, that's how I got I'm going for my blue belt, hopefully in the next year. Hopefully. I've been doing BJJ since 91. The one day he said, all right, here, guy hands me my teacher, which is Jerry DeSano out of Canada, hands me my white belt, puts 2 stripes on it. No ceremony, just that's how it's done. And that's okay. That's all right. Got no problem with that. But I wanted more. I want more things going on. I want more. I mean, for me, I didn't mind because I didn't care. But the thing here is when I go for my blue belt, I want to be tested. I want to be that someone can say, no, we put him through the ringer. We put him through his paces, and he did what he's supposed to do. Can you produce? Can you do what you need to do under pressure? And I know an old associate of Rick Manglinong used to always tell me, "Yep, my daughter can never pass a test, but man, off the mat, off out of the testing environment, she's a beast." But the testing, the traditional style of testing, she just rattles, and I get it. Some people they have that problem, but my mindset is you got to work through that, because if you're ever attacked, if martial arts is, if it's for a self-defense thing, you need to be able to perform under pressure. If it's just doing art or fitness or hobby, whatever, then it doesn't matter. So, and 10 years prior, did I? Wait. I think that was your yellow belt. Because you tested for your first degree black belt. Were we going to Atlantic City? Oh my God, we went to that seminar. Yeah, we did. There was a funny seminar. But my black belts do their shit, and thanks for logging. Paul O'Grady been around. He was around back in the day. He was around up until the time Professor passed. Yep, he said I tested. There we go. Exactly. Oh, Sam's. I'm okay. Can you do an SCF founder? Maybe Ray, not Dan. I've got a personal problem with Dan, and I have no intention of having on the show. But yeah. All right, here we go. Can you do an episode the show items Professor left you and share stories about them? I can do an episode on items that I've inherited through other people that were professors. He didn't leave any of us anything. He would leave things behind. I have a black belt of his and stuff like that, but he didn't leave. There was nothing to hand down. But okay. So, let me get back to this. So basically, I was Professor's Can-Am director for like a decade. I ran things. He wanted me to develop Canada with him and for him. It was expensive for him to go into Canada because the exchange rate was close to 50 cents on the dollar. And it was very hard for the Canadians to pay for him to be there. Just, when you think it was anywhere from 30 to 50% on the dollar. So it was really rough, so Professor charged $2,000 American. So let's say it was 50 cents. Now it's 3,000 Canadian. And that's just a seminar fee. That's not the airfare up there and stuff of that nature. So that would be a pain. So he wanted me to go into Canada and start developing it. And that's when we started the Canada chapter of the IMF. He made me the director. I was the last of the Datus. I was the highest ranked black belt. I was, the senior black belt. And then I was with Professor in Germany when he got diagnosed. There were no other Americans there at the time of when he got diagnosed. We were supposed to do the Germany camp. He wasn't feeling well. We went to the hospital. Gabrielle and Astrid, Yamil, and myself were the only ones there in the room. And that's when the doctor said he was going to die. So I'm going to talk about that another time, and it'll line up what my beliefs on the Masters of Tappy Tappy are. But we go with logic. Numerical rank has always been the thing to go. There was no such thing as a title that superseded everything in modern Arnis. There were Datus without rank, but one was Bong Harnellis. Remy wanted to have him take over at one time. He was grooming him. Didn't work out. But he had no numerical rank. He had no status. Well, when Remy brought him in, he brought him to me to start teaching him the forms and other stuff. And then of course I saw his system of martial arts and I became a student of his. And he and I became very good friends, went to his wedding, stuff of that nature. So, I go to Germany, things happen, and then there's this big statement that comes out of what's supposed to happen. Now, there was a will. I knew more or less what was in the will. I didn't know it verbatim. I was one of the successors. I was one of the inheritors of the art. Remy had worked that out for years on a group of people who would take over. And Remy was whisked away up to Victoria Island. It's an island in between Seattle and Vancouver. And when I was up there, he was there, and it was very hard for me to get a hold of him. And when I called the one time, I got a very cold reception. And he said, "Oh, you stop causing trouble." I'm like, "Causing trouble? I don't even know what you're talking about. I haven't told anyone anything." I kept my mouth shut because, I would talk to Randy Shea, who was the chairman of the board at the time. And when I flew home, I called him and said, "Get Remy out of there." But I said, if I go down too much, this ruins the show in Germany. But the things that happened were kind of perplexing. I was told to stay away from Professor. And then when I got there, he was upset that I didn't get there sooner. And the night before I left, somebody called me up to say that visitation was canceled. I went anyways. Kevin and I had already had tickets, Kevin Black and I. When I got there, of course, visitation was never canceled. So maybe that person was either he wasn't allowed to go, or the fact that maybe the person was told to tell me stuff, whether it was, as far as I'm concerned, I don't want to say someone was a liar. What I want to say is someone's information was incorrect. And there's a couple of reasons why that could have happened. We're not going to go down that path right now. But right from the get-go, I'm told I'm not supposed to be there. Don't go. And then I get there and Professor's upset why I didn't get there sooner. So I'm waiting to see if things are going to get worked out, because there were the 7 masters of Tappy Tappy who tried to claim that they were the successors to the art above and beyond everybody else, even though they were numerically ranked inferior to all the others. The highest rank amongst them was a 5th degree, but there was other 5th degrees out there. There was 2 active 6th degrees. That was Dieter and myself. So I was always, I figured, all right, I'll wait for this time to go through. In the meantime, when the public announcement came out of what the Masters of Tappy Tappy were and stuff like that, Kevin Black, who was my attorney, wrote a resignation letter for me. He was very upset what was going on. Obviously, he knew what was supposed to happen, because he worked on the will. And if someone tries to say stuff, well, maybe they changed the will, you can't. Okay. The timeline was too short to change anything. If they said, well, after he got diagnosed, you changed the will, no, you can't do that. First thing they start off of, I'm of sound body and mind. So any will that would have been changed after someone's been announced that, someone's told that they're going to die, you can't change that will, because at a bare minimum, you're not in a good mental state. I'm not saying crazy. What I'm saying is you're being told that you're going to die and you're going to make irrational decisions. I mean, just, stuff like that. Okay. So what was it? Grave robbers. Well, maybe. Yes, that is the case, but they keep saying it. Hey, Eric. So, you can go to 2 places to see this. I didn't realize I thought I was rewriting it. So if you go, I've got 2 on my website, because I thought, and I did update it a little bit, a couple, just date wise, something like that. If we go under Datu's corner, you will find, 2 articles. One is, this is the original one right here. Oh, I got it. Okay, so this is dated November 20th. Actually, this one's probably a better one. Hold on. This is, and what I did is I'm updating the graphics is what I'm really doing. And there's just, so this right here, this is November 20th, 2000. Walking my own path. And like I said, my attorney actually wrote this, but it's not my letter on there. I updated the links down there. Okay. But here's the important part. And this is what I'm talking about, vetting things, because now you're going to sit there and say, well, it's your own website, blah, blah, blah. Who knows what it said back in the day. So we're going to talk about what it said back in the day. So I'm going to show you how to do this. So when I go into here, okay, good. So the whole thing is about being honest. So if you do archive.org, which is written up here. Oh, you can't see it. It's at the top of the screen. Let's see. Okay. Can't see the URL. View tab on. Okay, yeah. Above here, at the top of this, it says archive.org. So what I'm going to do is go into here, hit enter. It takes me to the website. So if you go here, WM for World Modern Arnis.com, which I already knew I was going to need to have my own name, and that was another topic. So here's the website. So you can check anybody's website out. So we're going to go back here to, the website. It used to be a tripod website when I had my own URL and stuff. Then it was 99. But we're going to go to 2000. So we'll do December 4th. Take the screen snapshot. And so here talks about what the Can-Am chapter is and stuff of that nature. Members, I'm going to just throw something out of here so you know. Actually, I'm going to go back. I'm going to do staff, just as an interesting fact here. People who were members, Eric Alexander, Rob Alexander, Michael Bates, Chad Doolin, Carl Minkle, David Nung, Brett Salafia, Steve Scott. Oh, Brian Zawolinsky was a member of the association. Okay, so what do I have here? This membership, main, other. Okay, don't have it here. So what I'm going to do is go back here. I'm going to go to 2001, just because sometimes it takes a little time to get in this system. And maybe I was just looking at the wrong button. Oh, nope, that was when I was me. All right, March. We're in the process of changing the website. I'll go July. Okay. World Modern Arnis Alliance. So this is one we've changed. News. So this is once again 2001, July of 2001, because sometimes it takes a little time for it to propagate. November 20th. This is my resignation. So it was November 20th of 2000 when I officially started the World Modern Arnis Alliance. You can read this, and I'll summarize and make it real simple. Or tell you my mindset. You can read this however you want. First of all, the claims, in my opinion, were ludicrous. This whole idea of underbelts outranking senior belts, the senior belt, by having a lower numerical rank, but it's a title of some sort, just made no sense to me whatsoever. So that's the first thing. Then it was very clear when they made an announcement that Professor Presas retired from the organization due to his medical conditions. So because of that, I resigned because I realized it wasn't going to be fixed. And as I expected, the will was never executed. And in the will, it started right off saying what he wanted done with the martial arts. It wasn't going to his children. It went to his students. And unfortunately, to this day, 20 plus years later, the will has never been enforced. So I decided to take the Can-Am chapter of the IMF and turn it into something different. Turn it into something that I thought would benefit the art. Because at the time, no one had committed to the art full time. Okay. The only person in the masters, so 7 masters of Tappy Tappy. So Jeff Delaney, Gabrielle Roloff, Chuck Goss, Brian Zabalinski, Ken Smith, Jim Lattis, and Randy Shea. Of those 7, the only one who's a professional martial artist who committed to running a school as a martial art business was Kenny Smith. And he was doing, from what I understand, a successful Isshin karate school. But none of them actually did modernese as a primary living. They haven't made any sacrifices. Like, I sacrificed jobs, I sacrificed relationships. I don't have kids because I've committed to doing the craft. Because I could have, I don't want to say you could have had a kid, yeah, but I wouldn't have been able to raise a child in a secure household. First of all, my schedule is all over the place. I worked a day job, and then I taught at night until the school was able to do it. And I wouldn't be able to provide for my child or for my children or whatever properly. I want to make sure that they could have the things they wanted. Well, hell, I wanted to make sure they could have the things they needed, let alone what they wanted. If I couldn't afford, times I had a hard time supporting myself. So how would I be able to raise a family in that environment? So where are all the others? They didn't make that sacrifice. They all got kids. With the exception of Jim Lattis, I think, and Randy Shea. So, actually, Jeff didn't have, but Jeff had a business. He had a wife. He had property. He had a whole bunch of things. So, because I realized what was going on, I decided to leave. I resigned. The letter's there. I made announcements. You can also go back on Martial Talk and stuff of that nature. There was never any. And some people say, well, maybe they kicked you out. Well, if they did, no one made a public announcement on it. Plus, they weren't going to do that, because if they were to kick someone like myself out, what would that say? They weren't going to kick anyone out. Now, there was a split a year later where they said they kicked somebody out. Well, Jeff Delaney went one way, the others went the other way, and they both said that both sides retired. Conveniently, they retired, not no one kicked out. Having a kid and being a father are very different. Yes. Yep. And I wanted to be a good father. And someone who wanted to be a responsible parent. I chose the path of not trying to raise a child in an unstable environment. So basically, in the long run, I decided to leave. I was not fired. I was not given the door. I mean, to me, it was very obvious. There was in my opinion, which I'm allowed to have, there was a coup. Randy Shea brought some information back to the others. Not everyone was there, so I'm not going to blame them for what initially happened. But at the same token, they were complicit. Of course, no one ever tried to execute the will, which is a whole nother story. But my opinion, they realized it or not, they were all accessories to the act. But I think it's because they would then have lost power, because there would have been a group and they would have voted and stuff like that. As I realized that they were not going to execute what Professor wanted, then it really was an environment that I wanted to be part of, because there was no way I can add to it constructively. And I was a student of Remy. Okay. That was simple as that. Professor and I We had a one-on-one relationship. There was no one in between. And I had a cadre of people below me that were working that would, come to me, and then I'd bring the professor, so I had this whole network. These others had nothing. So I figured if they were going to, it would be better for me to walk away and start my own thing and carry on the wishes that professor wanted my way, and let the others do what they did. And it was very obvious. I mean, if you look at things, there ended up being 2 IMAFs, one of which is done. The other might as well be. And if you look at the website, there's hardly any activity, and there's only 2 schools or 3 schools or something like that. Handful of schools. You can count on one hand. It's, recently they've been pushing more. I've seen some of the students actually doing stuff on Instagram, which I think is a good thing because, here's the thing. I want us all to be successful, which means it's a better chance for modern Arnis surviving. Unfortunately, I just don't think that's going to happen based on the activities of some of these other people. I think they're concerned more for themselves than anyone else. Now, but that pretty much wraps it up. I mean, I had a letter. I put the letter out. I really didn't want to deal with this stuff. And, this has been my point. Yep. Yeah, even with the new math, 6 is larger than 5. So people can think and say and do whatever they want. I realized that those 7 were banding together and doing their thing. And the best thing for me was to walk away, because then I could actually do something positive and not be weighed down by anyone else. And obviously it's been successful. We've got 50 plus schools worldwide. I'm doing 20 to 30 seminars a year on the road. Plus I'm doing at least 1 seminar a month at the headquarters, where a lot of our members can attend virtually for those who are farther away, or in our case, we are overseas members. We're doing great, but the fact that, this ludicrous comment, oh, I got kicked out, especially by the person, because the person himself, I've got the letters where he was told not to use the art's name anymore and stuff of that name, because he had a lawsuit about breaking somebody's wrist during a seminar, a doctor's wrist, if I'm not mistaken. But the thing here is, and this goes back to the basics, man, just get it right the first time. I wouldn't have to comment. Stop lying about the facts. And if you're saying these things, here's the thing. When someone tells me something, I want to believe them. And I realize that they may not have all the facts. So they may be spreading misinformation because they don't know any better. So what I always say is, feel free to believe what you want, but you should also verify the information so you understand, you come out on the right side in the future. I've come out in some conversations where I didn't realize what I was talking about. I went on someone else's information and found out the hard way. I was off. Okay, so let me pull a couple things up here. What I want to talk about real quick before we wrap things up. So this 20th, unless I'm told otherwise, unless the weather gets in the way, this Saturday, I will be teaching a seminar in Avon, Connecticut. And then the 22nd, this coming Monday, should be the return of FMA Talk Live with my wonderful host, PG Tybotting. I will continue a few more episodes of this. The next one is going to be what happened in Germany when Professor Presas got diagnosed with cancer, and how this whole thing started with the masses of tappy and stuff of that nature. And I'll give you a timeline. I'll give you my interpretation of things, my opinion on things. And remember, we're all allowed our opinions on things. And when we talk about stuff, everyone's allowed to feel, not allowed, over here, everyone's feelings are genuine. They may not be merited. So when someone is upset about something, and we're talking about something, first thing you got to do is don't play down oh, you shouldn't feel this way. Don't go with that knee-jerk reaction. whatever they feel, that is genuine. But what you want to do is then talk to them, make sure that everyone's on the same page, and then you have an opportunity there to educate people and maybe change someone's opinions, and maybe their feelings change a little, but when I talk about stuff here, this is how I feel. I'm allowed. I have whether they're married or not. This is the way I feel. Like this right here. It annoys me that I actually have to have this conversation. People, so you could ignore it, Tim. Yeah, but when I bump into people and then they tell me, well, you're okay, but these guys are the end all be all. I'm like, stop it. And next week's conversation is going to talk about that. So, listen, as always, everybody, please stay safe and stay sane. This is Datu Tim saying, see you all soon. And congratulations to the Buffalo Bills for going to the next thing. And we'll see them play the Kansas City Chiefs this Sunday.